think he's going to go back to this group. I don't think he's going to go back to this group. I've known him for a long time. We've always gotten along well, despite the Russia hoax. It's a hoax created by Clinton and Schiff and all of these lunatics. And that really was a dangerous point. It was a very dangerous thing they did to this country. It was a pure, unadulterated scam hoax. But no, I think he'll be okay. I was disappointed in a certain way. Some of the things that were said over the last day or two having to do with Zelensky, because when he considers Zelensky not credible, he's supposed to be making a deal with him, whether you like him or you don't like him. So I wasn't happy with that. But I think he's going to be good. I certainly wouldn't want to put secondary tariffs on Russia, but if they were put on, it would not be. We put secondary tariffs on, as you know, in Venezuela, and it's had a very strong impact on Venezuela. You know that every ship just got out and they left. A lot of them left. They dropped the hoses right into the ocean and they left. They didn't want to be there for a minute because they didn't want those tariffs to catch on, but they didn't want me to see them there. So Venezuela, the secondary tariffs, all secondary tariffs are very strong because essentially it says if you disobey our orders, you cannot do business in the United States of America. And that's the cash cow. So if, in the case of Venezuela, as you know, China pulled up anchor and left. There are two ships there, and they left empty. They didn't want to take a chance. No, we're not playing games. Okay, any other questions?
Clarify, are you planning to leave office January 20th, 2029, or are you saying you might not?
Go ahead, any other questions?
On TikTok. The deadline's
We're working on TikTok. We have a lot of potential buyers. There's tremendous interest in TikTok. The decision's going to be my decision, as you know, through Congress. They've given me the power to make the decision. We have a great team of people essentially taking bids. We have a lot of people that want to buy TikTok. We're dealing with China also on it because they may have something to do with it. And we'll see how that goes. But it's something I think you can have. I'd like to see TikTok remain alive. I mean, I'll be honest, selfishly speaking, I won the young vote by 36 points. Republicans generally don't do very well with the young vote. I think a lot of it could have been TikTok. It could have been Joe Rogan, and it could have been a lot of things, but it was also TikTok. TikTok is it's very interesting. A lot of people want to buy it.
If no deal, Mr. President,
Well, there'll be a deal with it.
Mr. President, deadline for Russian President Vladimir. Is there a deadline for Russian President Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire?
It's a psychological deadline. If I think they're tapping us along, I will not be happy about it.
Do you think they are right now?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think he wants to make a deal. And I think Zelensky, by the way, he's trying to back out of the rare earth deal. And if he does that, he's got some problems. Big problems. We made a deal with rare earth. And now he's saying, well, you know, I want to renegotiate the deal. He wants to be a member of NATO. Well, he was never going to be a member of NATO. He understands that. So if he's looking to renegotiate the deal, he's got big problems.
Going on in the financial markets today?
Well, I mean, it's to be expected. This is a patient that was very sick. We really inherited a terrible economy, as you know, with a lot of problems, including loss of manufacturing and plants closed up all over the country. You know, we've lost 90,000 plants since NAFTA, if you think of that. And so it was a sick patient. It went through an operation on Liberation Day, and it's going to be a booming country. What we have is a set of tariffs based on what they've been charging us. That's reciprocal. And those tariffs have come in, and every country's called us. That's the beauty of what we do. We put ourselves in the driver's seat. If we would have asked some of these countries, most of these countries, to do us a favor, they would have said, no, now they'll do anything for us. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world.
The rest of the world is bewildered by what we're doing, and but we're the largest player on the block, and I think the president feels like we've got the leverage, we have the largest market, people want to be here, they want to invest here, and ultimately they will come. Everyone's going to feel the costs. Every consumer is going to see prices go up. And we're already, as you know, in a pre-inflationary stage right now, and so everyone's going to feel that, and the benefits may be 5-10 years down the road.
I don't want to have your side of the argument to have to try and defend the tariffs. It's a tax increase, those are inflationary, those are anti-growth, as any other tax increase would be. And maybe down the road there's something that offsets that, but right now our job is to try and guess what a business is worth and to make sure that they're financially strong enough that they can survive pretty much anything that happens until we get back to normal.
I expect most countries to start to really examine their trade policy towards the United States of America and stop picking on us. Stop saying that we can't sell our corn to India. Stop saying that we can't sell our beef anywhere. Just stop treating us so poorly.
I don't think we're going to have a recession. I think we're just going to hit consumption a little bit, and we're going to have a little more inflation than we expected. The labor market is holding up just fine, and I expect a good number tomorrow. So I would not overreact to this. I would be looking for the sort of what we call the defensive value. These are companies like Staples Healthcare, waste handling, utilities, on any pullback.
What I'd say, with the tariff is there are two scenarios for companies that make a hardware, a product. There's a bad scenario and a really bad scenario, but those are really the two options you have when it comes to these names. So the Apple is in that bucket, along with all the other ones on these tariff issues. And, I think the focus on Apple will be, given the manufacturing is heavily China, Vietnam, and India right now, is there an off-ramp for Apple, which is essentially going to come down to, they've committed to investing $500 billion in the US over the next 4 years. Does that get them an off-ramp compared with the exemptions they had last time? That would be a good thing for them. The alternate, I think, for Apple and others, in fairness, will be, do they start to raise prices over time to offset this in the US? And what does that do to the demand permutations eventually for them?
Warn Ukraine. He also said he believes the Ukrainian president is there too, wants a deal soon. The administration is making another push to end the conflict right now. The president's special envoy is talking with Russian negotiator Kirill Dmitriev, who joins us now live on set. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
How do you characterize the talks right now and how they're going?
I think President Trump administration has made tremendous progress. There was no dialogue with Russia in Biden administration for the last 3 years. There was no trying to understand Russian position. There was no really solutions that could have been successful. And what President Trump team has done, they understood what the solution space may be, and they achieved the first de-escalation ever in the conflict, which is stopping hits on energy infrastructure between Russia and Ukraine. So we are having good discussions. Our diplomatic people are also discussing possible outcomes, but there is no question that President Trump's team not only stopped World War III from happening, but also had already achieved sizable progress on Ukraine resolution.
After that resolution, though, of the energy infrastructure, there were attacks by the Russians on the Ukrainians' energy infrastructure.
But so there were, unfortunately, attacks by Ukrainian on lots of Russian infrastructure, which are not too much reported in the press, and that, of course, has to stop. And I think energy infrastructure ceasefire has to hold. You, Russia, have a lot of sanctions put on your country by the U.S., and that runs the gamut. Importation of Russian oil, energy products into the U.S., sanctions on oil-carrying vessels, other sectors, financial services, aerospace, metals, and mining. In fact, you had to get a waiver on sanctions to travel here to the U.S. Is lifting sanctions part of the condition for the ceasefire that you're talking about? Well, Russia is not asking for lifting of sanctions, because if you look at our GDP growth, it's actually 4% last year versus just 1% in Europe. If you look at our debt to GDP, it's 18% versus 100% in Europe. So I think what we see is that actually US companies lost around $300 billion of foregone profit from withdrawing from Russia. So I think sanctions may be lifted when US companies want to go back, want to take advantage of business opportunities in Russia. But right now, Russia is not making any preconditions, not asking for specific sanction relief. There are the sanctions, but there still is some trade with Russia. If you look at the numbers, 526.1 million exports to Russia, 3 billion imports from Russia. It is down significantly with all the sanctions. Were you surprised that Russia was not on the tariff list announced by President Trump yesterday? Well, I think it was more of a technical issue for not part of this negotiation. Trump administration, not a big part, or not a part of this negotiation too much. But I think there is basically a huge opportunity for us to have dialogue and to do business together. And by the way, we talked to many people in the administration, some people in the legislative branch, and they always, once you ask them, hey, how about Russia and US doing more business, restoring relationship, they actually are surprised and say, well, maybe that's a good idea. So I think there is a positive outcome of not only Ukraine discussions, but of restoring ties and having lots of partnership and economic opportunities between U.S. and Russia. You know, President Zelensky sat in that very seat a couple of weeks ago. Yes, in that program, and told me that his main concern for Ukraine and his people is security guarantees. Take a listen. President Trump is convinced that you will never sign a deal with Vladimir Putin. Is he right?
No, I think so. What I think, Ukraine wants peace, and we will have anyway diplomacy. We will have negotiations. I only said that I think so. It's about just and lasting peace. We have to be in strong position. What does it mean? Just to know that our army is strong, that our partners with us, and that we have security guarantees.
So is there any security guarantee that Ukraine would be okay with that Russia would accept? And again, Brett, I think, I focused a lot on investment economics, so I can just, more hypothetically talk about this specific issue. But I think Ukraine joining NATO, as our president said, is not at all possible, and that I think has been widely accepted, including by Trump administration. Some security guarantees in some form may be acceptable. But you can say definitively that your president, President Putin, wants to get to a deal. Well, I can say so, and he said so publicly. And he wants a permanent peace in Ukraine, and I think he actually publicly said what some of those conditions are. And I think President Trump administration has also been very vocal in our discussion. They want a fair deal, but in lots of negotiations, they actually push for strong Ukraine. They are supporting strong position of Ukraine. So they want a fair deal, but they want Ukraine to be strong. I want to ask you about the economics in a second, but the U.S. European commander was asked about Russia's intentions if they get a deal. Take a listen.
Do you believe that after Russia invaded Georgia, then Crimea, then eastern Ukraine, that if some sort of deal was reached with Vladimir Putin, especially one that advantaged him, that he'd be done with invading neighboring countries, that he would be done with adventurism in Europe?
I do not, ma'am. My professional assessment, based on years of study, is that this is part of a broader pattern in Russian history.
If Russia gets a deal, makes a deal, is that the end of the adventurism going forward to other countries?
Well, I think definitely so, and I would say there are lots of false and fake narratives circulating, such as Russia possibly going into Europe. I mean, that's just a crazy idea. And the problem is there are lots of crazy people and they discuss it together, so it becomes like crazy group crazy. And I think President Trump is very realistic. He knows it's not going to happen. And I think it's very important that there are safeguards in place. But what is dangerous is that there are lots of sort of false narratives and people stay in those narratives. Before, the same people were proposing decisions on Ukraine that would never have worked. And if you propose decisions that doesn't work, it means you don't actually have a decision that can work.
Last thing, you say that the Russian economy is good. There's obviously a lot of other people saying it's not, and it's hurting. Is one of your messages here that whatever happens, there could be an economic relationship between the Russians and the U.S.?
Definitely, and we can do so many great things together in Arctic. We can do deals in rare earth and other minerals. We can do lots of cooperation in LNG and other areas. So I think one of the big issues between us, we never had really lots of economic cooperation. We believe that economic cooperation will allow us to also solve any political issues and be positive. And I think that positive economic cooperation can happen with President Trump's team.
Covering all sides, we appreciate you coming in and talking to our viewers.
Thank you, Brad.
Reading out of Jeremiah 31:8 through verse 11. Behold, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the coast of the earth, and with them the blind and the lame, the woman with child, and her that travaileth with child together. A great company shall return hither. They shall come with weeping and with supplications. Will I lead them? I will cause them to walk by the rivers of the waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. That's dealing with northern and southern kingdom. Verse 10, hear the word of the Most High, O ye nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, he that scattered Israel will gather him and keep him, and a shepherd his flock. Verse 11, for the Lord had redeemed Jacob and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. Koholo Yahweh, Bashima Mashiach Yahushai, Ruha Ruka Kodash. Double honors to the mighty men, the elders, and the apostles in the community, waking up the lost sheep of the house of Israel in these last days. Peace and blessings to everyone doing this truth and humbleness and sincerity. Again, I'm going to say shalom. You know, family, when you look at the news, where Babylon the Great is today, it's only decaying. Okay, you have this tariff war, as you can see in the news posted, and it's bad. Okay, supermarket prices is just skyrocketing, and this is only going to increase in these last days. You have the tariff wars. You have literal war overseas. Okay, you still have the proxy wars in the Middle East with Hamas, Palestine v. Israel v. America. Okay, and you still have the threats to Iran, and there's still the ongoing threats with China, Taiwan. There was some noise with America overthrowing Greenland. It's hype. I believe that was a media hype.
Arrived in northern Greenland for a trip much scaled back yet still highly controversial. It was minus 19 degrees in Pittavik.
How we doing?
And it was perhaps the prospect of a chilly welcome from Greenlanders that persuaded the Americans to cancel visiting a dog sled race and instead stick to the US military base far to the north of Greenland's capital, Nuuk. But the Vice President very much turned up the heat on Copenhagen.
Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people. That has to change. And because it hasn't changed, this is why President Trump's policy in Greenland is what it is.
Vance's strategy is clearly to drive a wedge between Greenlanders and Denmark that the US can exploit. But while polls say 80% of Greenlanders do want independence from Denmark, an even bigger margin rejects Donald Trump's demands that Greenland be American. The increased US pressure on Greenland has come at a time when the territory has effectively been politically frozen. Elections earlier in March have meant that for weeks it's only had a caretaker government. But on the same day as the Vance visit, a new coalition has been announced. 4 of the 5 parties in Parliament have come together to govern.
What's the message of this new government to the Donald Trump administration on the day of this visit from the Vice President?
It's a sign about that we are standing strong. We don't want to be Americans, we don't want to be Danes. We are Greenlanders.
J.D. Vance says he and President Trump respect the self-determination of Greenland, that the US will keep it safe from supposed Chinese and Russian encroachment, that Trump is a president of peace. Most Greenlanders aren't so sure. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera.
But I'm gonna say this. When you look at the history after World War II, how they occupied and furthered their position, it's not impossible. Because you got to remember, they also control Babylon the Great. Y'all know where I'm going. So it's not impossible. And that's going to further this war. Okay, even Canada got in on the tariff war. They put some tariffs on America. Most recently, China and the BRIC nations. Okay, we all know the members of BRIC. They're contrary to America anyways. This thing is spiraling out of control very fast. Okay. I didn't post, okay, there was some violence in New York, more violence in New York City and other major cities across the planet Earth. And this is all reigning in this final judgment, okay? The persecution of the Israelites, okay? This video going viral, looked like the brothers overseas, they were under fire by protesters. And it's persecution of the true 12 tribes of Israel. It's going to increase. And that's Bible prophecy. Okay. We got to look at this as really good news, because our Exodus is drawing nigh. I'm going to chime in on that. I'll end this video. Okay. That opening Slakia was Jeremiah 31, 8 through 11. And I'm going to hit y'all with something. That body's your spiritual Israel. It only gets worse for any false teacher teaching a spiritual Israel. One of the elders put out a video, the elder from South Carolina, he put out a video where you got groups that actually think the UN's going to help us with this exodus. The elder said it best. I say it best. In many camps of Moshe Yashala and abroad been teaching the exodus is out the fire. But I'll deal with that before I end it. Most I will. I'm going to go into Jacob's trouble real quick. I'm going to start at Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 5. I'm going to run through it, okay? This is going to be a common topic because we're going to slack you. we're already entering the Jacob's trouble, but the persecution do have to kick in. That's just part of it, family. Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 5. I'm going to read 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 10, okay? For thus said the Most High, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, not of peace. Ask ye now, and whether a man do travel with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Therefore fear not, O my servant Jacob, said the Most High, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed, dealing with the 12 tribes of Israel, from the land of their captivity. I'm going to read that again. Verse 10, therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, said the Most High, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. Okay? And we're in some hard times right now. Okay? It's not subject only to Babylon the Great. Israelites are scattered to the four corners of the earth, the four winds of the earth, okay? Wherever mankind dwell, Israel is there. But the repentant Israelites, keeping the commandments of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, these are the Israelites, the elect. Okay, you have your government body elect, and you have the remnant elect. That's who salvation's for. The wicked and the wicked of our people, they're going to be destroyed. Okay? Like the elder said, and like most of us teach, the nuclear destruction got to manifest. It ain't no negotiation with nobody. Okay? And the Most High not coming here to sit in no damn UN. He coming here to destroy this place. Let's carry on. Jeremiah 46 and verse 27, and it reads, But fear not thou, O my servant Jacob, and be not dismayed, O Israel, for behold, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed. Okay, and that seed is dealing with the actual people. At this bonehead from a year ago talk about the seed is agriculture. The seed is dealing with the people. Okay, and this people is the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Okay, let's read this from the top. Jeremiah 46 and 27. But fear not thou, O my servant Jacob, and be not dismayed, O Israel, for behold, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return and be in rest and at ease, and none shall make him afraid. And that's a huge problem for the people set up after World War II. They're established, they're in war, but they are established people, and they definitely know who they are. They don't fit the bill in the Torah, in the curses, Deuteronomy 28:15 on down, the curses written in Jeremiah 17 on down, okay? Zechariah 1 and 21, they don't fit that bill, family. Psalms 83, that's not them. Okay, that's just not them. The only ones that's going to accept this warning is the true elect. Those that's repentant and keeping this truth, okay, keeping the commandments to the best of their ability. That's who's going to get saved out of Jacob's trouble. Okay, the calamities are already overloading, right? And it's only going to increase. Y'all seen the reports? It's only getting worse. And this time we in, again, I'm going to always say this. I'm going to always resurface this. The time we're in makes Genesis 6 look very light. We're in a far worse of time. Okay? Let's read on. Let's get the classic in Deuteronomy, the 25th chapter. Deuteronomy 25:19. And it reads, Therefore it shall be, when the Most High, thy God, had given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven, thou shalt not forget it. And that's really dealing with the elite powers that be, okay? That's also going into the Dukes of Edom, but that's the chief, that's the, how do you say, there's a Slakia. When you read the Dukes of Edom, 34, it's somewhere in Genesis 30. In those accounts, there are different tribes of Edom, and Amalek is the top tribe. Let's get a precept in Exodus 17. Exodus 17 and verse 14. I'm going to read Exodus 14, Slakia. Exodus 17, verse 14, all the way to verse 16. And it reads, And the Lord said unto Moses, Write this for a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Okay. And Moses built an altar and called the name of it Jehovah. Verse 16. For he said, because the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Okay, and we know who that is, right? They don't fit the bill of the children of Israel. For them to fit that bill, they definitely wouldn't have the might, the strength, the geopolitical stronghold they literally have over the world, the finances. Nowhere in the scriptures it says the 12 tribes of Israel would have that type of leverage while captive. And that's common sense for you Christians. And you silly apologetics that's trying to push 2 Corinthians 11 and 4 on the masses. It won't work. We're at the end. We're at Slakia. This is like third base going into the home run almost. But that home run won't manifest until Christ and the angels show up. Okay, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, all that stuff is fables. That stuff don't work. Now, Islam has truth, but at the end of the day, it has some truth. At the end of the day, that's not for us. That's a religion for Ishmael. And Muhammad, who's a so-called white man, had the Israelite slaves. You can read that in Babylon, Timbuktu. Okay. That's not the heritage for the children of Israel that was scattered to the four corners of the earth. We have the Most High of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The other nations don't. They're going to be judged. They're going to be put in subjection. And in Exodus, the 17th chapter, you have to link those last three verses with Obadiah 1 and 18. The Dukes of Edom going to get cut off, okay? That's your Ku Klux Klanmen, your ADL, your SPLC, your Canary Mission, your vocabs, your Bible flocks. That's them. They're going to get shut down. It's common sense, family. How people took over the earth, Job 9:24, going to be the same people that teach the spiritual Israel. That don't even make any sense. Okay? And I put this in one of the elders' comment board, but I don't put it out there. if it's spiritual, it's an easy question. It's common sense. What justice look like? Okay, what would justice look like for the Israelites catching hell? Israelites wrongfully arrested, Israelites being persecuted. Okay, all the years of slavery and captivity. Okay, brothers think they're going to get reparations from this government. I don't want their reparations. I don't want their reparations. I want Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Yahushai to come with the angels, as it's written in Isaiah 66, to destroy this place, man. To destroy the wicked. Our reparations is immortality. Our reparations is immortality. Never forget that. We won't need their money anymore. We're gonna still have access. Read Isaiah the 4th. I think that's Isaiah 4. I could be wrong. We're gonna have everything and some. But there's no trade-off for immortality. There's none. Okay, that's Slakia, celestial body. You never die. You can read Revelations 21. I'm gonna give you a verse. Let's get the classic. This for anyone that still believe you're gonna age out in the kingdom. Think again. Watch this. Let's read. It's a Luke account. There's an account in Luke. I'm going to pull it and I'm going to read it. Yeah, our time is quickly approaching. But Jacob's trouble, remember Jacob's trouble, it has to tighten up. That means times are going to get more and more difficult before that day comes. We're going to read out of the book of Luke 20 and 36. And it's a cut on anyone teaching you age in the kingdom and die. Luke 20 and 36 reads, neither can they die anymore, for they are equal unto the angels and are the children of the Most High, being the children of the resurrection. Okay? That cuts any doctrine that you're going to die in the kingdom. And I challenge y'all to read Luke 20 and 36. I'm going to read that again. Neither can they die anymore, for they are equal unto the angels and are the children of the Most High, being the children of the resurrection. By Shema Mashiach Yahushai. So there will be no passing away in Zion. It's not going to happen. See if there's any more. See if there's any more before I wind down. I want to share this news with y'all from the AP. I want to run through these before I wind this video down. Check this out. There was some breaking news out of the AP. This was this morning. It says the Dow drops 1,000 points and global markets sell off again as China hits back with tariffs on U.S. imports, okay? It was Slocky. The second one reads, breaking news, China imposed a 34% tariff on imports of all U.S. products, beginning April 10th, matching the rate of Trump's tariffs imposed earlier this week. Let's see if there's any more. It says Dow suffers its biggest wipeout since 2020 as fears of fallout from President Trump's tariffs shaked market. And this thing is going to come down. Okay? And I'm going to keep putting this out. Stop believing in this government. This government is finished, y'all. Stop believing in this government. It can't save you. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Most High of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he's breaking this place apart as he did ancient Egypt. America's, okay, Slakia, the cup has been passed to America. America's going down. Precept. Let's get why America's being judged like this, man. Because they continue to lie on who the true 12 tribes of Israel are. And yet this guy out there begging lawmakers to come down on basically anyone, okay, saying they're the Israelites, okay, and not the people set up. But judgment's here, and it's going to increase. But this is why God is really shaking America. Exodus 21 and verse 16. He that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And America to this day don't acknowledge us as Israelites. They call us black people. Meanwhile, our skin's brown. I'm going to always resurface that. Look at the image in the left-hand corner. You got the depiction of, the description of Hamashiach, Yahushua, and Caesar. Well, he's not a black man. He would be a dark-skinned man. And so-called white people aren't white people. Y'all see the image? Y'all see the image there? So lawmakers play this game with us. They continue to play this game. And they're going to be judged. And it's going to be a massive war that's going to end in nuclear destruction. Okay? So we have to keep the commandments, keep the faith, and prepare for this exodus. Shit, let me see, Slakia, if there's any more. Let's get this one. 2 Ezra 15:10 through 12. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. This is dealing with America. There's a Revelation account that refers to this place as Sodom and Egypt. Okay. Verse 11. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Verse 12. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and the punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. So, like the elder said, and like I've been saying, and like so many other teachers in the community have been putting out there, it ain't gonna be no conversation in the UN. Okay, Yahushua not have no sit down in the UN. He's coming to destroy this place. Okay. I said I would bring that out before I end this video. Let's get this Exodus out the fire. I'm going to read the Isaiah 43 account. That's Isaiah 43, 1 and 2. And it reads, But now thus said the Most High that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, northern and southern kingdom. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. That's referencing the first Exodus. Okay? Reading on. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. Bashima Mashiach Yahushua. That's symbolic to the fire coming. And that fire is literal. It's nuclear fire. Okay. There's a Revelation account, again, that says, come up hither. That's going to happen. Because the Lord's going to have the nations, okay, Revelation 17. The nation's going to start shooting the missiles. And they're going to burn America off the face of the earth. The nuclear missiles is prophecy, and that's going to happen. Not a conversation in the UN. See if there's any more. I'm going to read this again. Isaiah 43, 1 and 2. But now thus said the Most High that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. Verse 2. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. And that's going into this next Exodus. Okay? It's not going to leave you in the fire either. In the Revelation account, it says, come up hither. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to the wilderness. Most High willeth from the wilderness to Zion, Ezekiel 20. Okay, that's what we're praying for. Because America's crumbling, man. This place is finished, right? And this is the true gospel. Isaiah 61, verses 1 and 2. Slack it. The Spirit of the Most High is upon me, because the Lord had appointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Most High, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. Okay? And we're the captives to racism, white supremacy. Okay? Zion is not for white supremacists, neo-Nazis, the Dukes of Edom. It's not for y'all. This is what the Lord is going to do to finish off racism, white supremacy, and the wicked. Let's get Isaiah 66. I said I was going to go here. We're going to go through persecution, and that's fine. And I said this in my earliest videos, okay? You know, the faster they come after us, the faster we're delivered. That's the only way to approach it, y'all. That's the only way to approach this. Because their money, their stocks, even if you have real estate, guess what? It can't save you. All of it's going to burn to ashes. Okay? Let's get Isaiah 66. I said I was going to go here. We're going to start at verse 14 and we're going to end this video. Isaiah 66 and 14, it reads, and when you see this, your heart shall rejoice, your bones shall flourish like an herb, and the hand of the Most High shall be known toward his servants, and his indignation towards his enemies. Okay, verse 15, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebukes with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Most High plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. Okay. Verse 17. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the garden behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, said the Most High. Okay. So anyone that's still believing you can eat pork and ham and all this silliness, knowing this prophecy never happened, gonna burn up on the day of the Lord. So 12 tribes of Israel, keep the commandments, keep the faith, and just stand firm until the day of the Lord. Okay, while we go through these days of Jacob's trouble and, persecution and, all these things that have to happen, that's going to lead into our final and last Exodus. And with that, give all praise, honor, and glory to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahweh, Ba'Shem HaMashiach Yahushai. Double honors to the mighty men, the elders, and the apostles in the community, waking up the lost sheep, the house of Israel in these last days. Peace and blessings to everyone doing his truth, walking in his truth and humbleness, sincerity. Israel, I love y'all. We got next. Shalom, family.